Hi everyone, it's me again, your girl Pretty, here to show you how easy it can be to create more opportunities to increase safe sensory exploration and child development. Are you ready? Let's do this. First, let's read a question from a parent. Dear Pretty and team, I have a 5-year-old daughter who was diagnosed with sensory processing disorder a few years ago. We find that she can't help her curiosity with textures even when we are in public. She normally loves touching everything around the house, which can be quite dangerous sometimes. I find that she is fine with certain textures, but others not so much. Sometimes, when we are at the mall, she would walk up to strangers and start touching and exploring their hair, clothes, jewelry, and shoes. People are not always understanding with this. Is there anything that I can do to stop her from touching strangers and dangerous things around the house? From Curious Mom. Hi, Curious Mom, and thank you so much for your question. Children use their sense of smell, touch, taste, hearing, and seeing to explore and experience the world more authentically. When they explore, they are practically sharpening their mental, physical, and emotional growth. So, sensory exploration is quite natural and very vital in a child's development. However, for children with sensory processing disorder, they have a much distorted sense of their surrounding, which really interrupts their learning and exploring of the world. To try and get your little girl to stop touching strangers, you might want to explain why it is not a good thing to touch strangers using a social story. You can go back to our previous videos on social stories for some ideas on how to make one for her. So let me explain sensory integration with regards to sensory processing disorder. Sensory is what happens when we touch, taste, smell, and hear. Sensory processing is what happens when your brain receives information from one of the 5 senses. In other words, sensory integration is our brain's ability to interpret and respond to sensory information. However, for individuals with sensory processing disorder, integrating and responding to sensory information can be quite challenging, in the sense that their brain or central nervous system becomes confused when senses are engaged. And this affects how a person reacts to material textures, noise, smell, food. Basically, it affects how they react to their overall environment. Now, because sensory exploration is so important for any child, we definitely don't want to suppress her need to explore. She clearly craves exploring different textures. So we want to encourage it, but in the right and safe way. The question in this sense is, what tool can I use to help my child with sensory processing disorder to make sense of the world? And the answer to that is through sensory boards. You can easily purchase one or just create it yourself. I know, creating it sounds like a lot of work, but I promise you I have an easier way to achieve this sensory tool without too much hassle. A sensory board is a fun, hands-on board with different materials and textures that kids can use to explore and learn different objects all in one place. They are great for any individual, especially for those who still need to explore and make sense of textures. A sensory board can have absolutely any texture that you can find. Your sensory board can be as big as the wall or as small as a picture. It can have lots of different textures and materials or just a few things. This I will leave up to you. You can use anything around the house to glue onto your sensory board: cotton, bubble wrap, sandpaper, beads, plastic letters, shapes, pasta, ribbons, pipe cleaners, fur, wax paper, buttons, Velcro, fake leaves, real flowers, fake flowers. The list goes on. You can attach almost anything to your sensory board as long as if it's safe and secure. So I don't have many material items in my apartment. That's why I'm gonna have to head out, go buy some before I make my sensory board. Let's do this. That wasn't so hard, hey? Now, before I go, I want you to remember the key factors to any successful implementation plan. The 3 C's. It has to be child-specific and interest-based all the time. It has to be clear and concise in terms of execution and instructions. And lastly, consistency is key. Goodbye, everyone. I will see you real soon for more fun and easy to do tips for the home environment.
I see colors, shapes and